So yeah, so it's really dense. So I'll try to make it to keep it simple, but give some great information. So the main idea is about how we can decentralize identity on the web and over the web. So who am I? I'm the founder of WebShell. That the main product of WebShell is now OAuth.io. We make a meta API to integrate all OAuth in one unique way. So we are on the developer side. As providers, we'll probably provide OAuth for developers. We help developers to integrate your OAuth in a unified way. I'm the organizer of API Days Conference, another great conference like Nordic APIs in many cities, and maintainer of some community stuff on APIs. So let's decentralize APIs right now. The main idea, the main idea is the identity has been really centralized for the last 25 years on the web through email. Then it had been multi-centralized directly by delegated identity. And so what's next? What can be really distributed for this? One first thing, do you know Dick Fosbury? Who knows Dick Fosbury? Yeah. So it was a high jumper. And in this talk, I will explain. So this is the actual word, right? So yeah, it goes. So this is the techniques that people were using to make high jump. It was on the front, right? It was directly on the front. And for 100 years already made that. But one day came in 1968, one guy made something which was barely legal at this time. He made it on the back. So, and this is what I will explain now. So it's a new technique to make the same thing as before, but so see it just as a new technique of making exactly the same thing. It's not something which is completely different what you know. Just for the story, he didn't win. He had the bronze medal, but yeah. So really rapidly, so if we make a new technique, let's go back to the beginning. So what is identity? And a lot of people say, oh, identity is who I am. And making some research about that, I say, no. You're different depending on the people you're talking to. So just an example, you're different with your friend, with your wife, with your husband, with your shoemaker. Let's take the example of a shoemaker. If you go to a shop and you say, okay, I want to buy shoes, this guy will ask you just one thing, your size. So are you 11? Maybe he will ask you your taste, the color you like and the style you want, maybe your budget, but that's it. So the data he asks from you is just size, color, and budget. He doesn't ask your name, he doesn't ask your address until you want delivery. But so identity is not who you are, identity is about what you share. So we have different faces depending on what we share with people. We can have two friends, but share different things. That defines the relationship that we have with them directly. So the more you share, the deeper the relation is, and you will never share the same thing with people. So main thing about this talk, identity is not about who you are, identity is about what you share. So on the web, you can be anonymous, so sharing nothing. Actually, you share always your IP and some cookies or thing until you accept them. But you can be pseudonymous, so you say, okay, this is my name, and nobody will be able to recognize it. You can be self-asserted, so you say, okay, you can fill information. You say, I'm this person living here and making and having this photo, for example. You can be socially verified, so now the identity becomes more relevant, or you can be verified by a government or something. But this is the actual spread of identity you may have and level of identity you may have. But we have a problem on the web right now. Is this tweet that I love. Password reset is the new login, and I think this can win the Nordic APIs tweet contest. How many times we make a password reset? And a lot of people thought for many years that browsing the web should be easy. We should be able to have one username that will be recognized everywhere for a single sign-on user experience. You must own your data. This data has to be secure and protected. You have to be consistent for network, also for security reasons, and valuable for everybody to use it and implement it. The users and the providers. This is really, really important. The value makes things happen. And often, a lot of people in the past made only one side valuable and not the other, so they were losing it. So why password? Really fast. So a secret is something we share only at 1% at a time. Passwords are everywhere. It's inside our brain. We could have used what people own, especially what people are able to do or things. But no, we say, okay, what can people remember in the most advanced technology worldwide, which is the brain, and we choose password. Just one drawing about password that I love, but just the thing to say that the way we make password today is hard for people to remember, but easier for a computer to guess. You will have the slide after, but yes, the entropy of the way we ask password is lower the way we ask them today. And just ask, for example, my mother. My mother, if she has different password, some with capital letters, some with numbers, it's a mess. And when I have to explain her, oh, okay, you have to change your password. So it's a complete mess. So this is why people thought about passphrases, but this is not where people were used to learn how to use password. So all the people before me talk about single sign-on, so I will not go deep on this, but this is the three-legged process. We had OpenID, which is different than OpenID Connect, but we had OpenID in 2006. The idea is the user could choose between different providers. He could choose between different providers to register to an application through, though it can be Google, Facebook, or others. But the main problem is by having this layer, where was the value? You know, your shoemaker need only your size or your address, for example, for delivery. So the main value, the relationship couldn't go far. So there is no value, and OpenID stopped. The first OpenID core stopped last year about it because of this value. The relationship defines the value, and this is why we need a customized data sharing. Mozilla Persona in 2011 asked the same thing, tried to make the same thing with a browser ID. So now the identity provider was either your email provider or any domain name. So you would be able to create your own domain for any provider, mostly for login, just to be able to log in with an email address, and nothing more than login, just your name and an email address. But where was the value? So the same problem, many people in the past made identity just valuable for one side. It can be the users or the providers, but just one side. Then began OAuth. In 2007, so back after Mozilla Firefox, which was Persona, which was on the side. So OAuth. The guy before me just explained OAuth really well. But on the politics side, OAuth constrain you to use one specific identity. So it can be a Facebook identity, a Yahoo identity, or other, but it obliges you to do that. So short story about OAuth on the politics side, but OAuth is quite broken today for many reasons. The standards evolve in many different implementations. So, and all this startup and web services buzz was in these years. So a lot of people made it through different standards. OAuth 1 is really different than OAuth 2, mostly because of signatures. Yeah, a lot of people agree. And yes, but OAuth 2 was mostly a compromise, and this is why there is a lot of debate about Aaron Hammer that has quit the board of it. But the main idea behind that is they are all different. On OAuth, I'm used to make this talk about 10 implementation you can guess, but we have seen 45 different implementation of OAuth already, so it's really different. So it started as a protocol, and OAuth 2 ended up as a framework because of this non-backward interoperability and many reasons with that. But why everybody still want to use OAuth, and why we have OpenID Connect based on OAuth? We have user-managed access. That will be a talk after me in the other room, which is based on OAuth 2. Because OAuth has value. OAuth has value. You know, this is sand oil in Canada, and it's valuable to extract it until only if the barrel is more than $100. But as long as there is value, we use techniques, crappy techniques, we don't care, but to extract this value. So this is the most important thing that I think with OAuth. OAuth bring business value by sharing, by the ability to share specific data and permissions to users. But because of that, we have a new problem. So we have this OAuth fragmentation. All the providers wants to be identity platform, and this is the theme of the conference, right? About how to be a platform. So the main thing is, because of this, everybody wants to be a platform. Sometimes sometimes, so the size will change. So identity providers have now a lot of power. So Facebook made this IPO $100 user, probably because of the identity provider they were. The application have power because it constrains the users to use the identity they want, and the user may have less power. And with the next Internet of Things and all the identity we will need to have, maybe it will change. Just an example, this is a fridge that can tweet. Just an example. Jason Jaron Lanier made a book about who owns the future, and he talked about this identity and how and the fact that by a user, when we share data, we are providing value to the platform. So how we can not reverse, but make an equilibrium between the data we provide and the data which is used by the providers, because at the end. So it's the debate, but all data are belong to you. At least it's like friendship. As long as you share data with a friend, it's your friend, or time or experiments. When you want to stop it, you should be able to stop the updates of the data with this friend. You say, you're not my friend anymore. But the friend will not keep the data in your past with him and not having you the right to use it. Just an example with Fitbit. If you have a Fitbit device with all your data for 2 years, and you want to change for a Jawbone, so how you do that? No, you should be able to, you just stop the updates for Fitbit, but should be able to extract the data to the new one. And if you go on the Fitbit support, there was a question, not me, there was a question about someone who asked if he gives $100 to Fitbit, do they allow him to export the data to a new device? So it's already worth $100, right? And it's a true question that we've seen. So this is where Bitcoin comes. So who knows already Bitcoin? Okay, so a lot of people. But yes, so the main idea, we'll try to keep it really simple, but the main idea is just think decentralized database accessible by anybody to be able to check transaction and to check many, many things. It can be for money. So this is why Bitcoin was made first, but it can be for anything. So for Bitcoin, it's for money, so we are able to check all the money that people own and the transaction they made between each other. But this principle of a decentralized database accessible by anybody to read and to write is the principle of Bitcoin. So the idea behind it is we can do it with identity. We can do it with identity. Of course, it has to be encrypted because not everybody wants to have this data accessible everywhere, but using private key and public key, and so asymmetric cryptography, we could be able to have this data stored in a secure way. So this distributed database, so for people to check the availability and the results, we use what we call a proof of work. The main idea is like kind of democracy of voting. This is here. So we have all the computer competing with a CPU, now it's a GPU mainly, but with computational power to check all the transaction. And this proof of work will be mostly probabilistically found by the majority of computational power. So because of that, the majority, which will probably not malicious, which is honest, will find the first proof of work that define the validity of the transaction, and then we can go to another state of the database, and we will have this every time this consensus, what Satoshi Nakamoto called the consensus, to be able to check the transaction. So actually, every block now is 10 minutes, but you can make coins with 2 minutes, like Litecoin or others. But the main idea is that all the network is checking all the transactions to check if they are true or not. And the bigger the network is, the less computational power, the more computational power you need to compete against the network. So you can see as a democracy, as long as the majority of people vote and invest resources to check and vote for it, it's really hard for you to have the majority of it and to win. And for this is why we incentivize miners. We incentivize the miners are the people who invest computational power to check the network. We reward them. We reward them with this Bitcoin money, but it can be any other money. Just one thing. So this is the investment of Bitcoin. So now the 2014 Bitcoin run rate is bigger from the VC investment, is bigger than the 1995 internet. So I'm not talking something about which is crazy, it's really growing. And in 2012, it was 2 million. So 291, 290. So a lot of people try to make Bitcoin, few people try to make Bitcoin as an identity provider. We had Namecoin, but it was mainly for, in 2010, mainly for names. But your shoemaker doesn't need your name. So name is not the value enough for implementing everything. And it was made for DNS system to decentralize DNS. But some people already thought about that. But now, we are working right now on trying to make a Bitcoin blockchain as an identity provider. It will be a different coin. It will be not the Bitcoin directly. It will be an altcoin that we call alias. Like, so you would log in with alias. But yes, so this is the three-leg, scheme. Okay, let's try to make it Bitcoin style. So the user, still on the same place, the application developer or the application, still in the same place, and now it's the blockchain. The blockchain, so between the user and the blockchain, there is a storage and updates of the data, which you have a public and a private data. The blockchain and the application, you retrieve data from the blockchain and you give permission to it. It's like an authorization server, like the OAuth flow. And between the user and the application, okay, it's just a classic flow of permissions. Oops, sorry. So you will have the slide later, but I explain how with your private key and public key, each user with one username can sign every request he does to the blockchain and enable the application to check if you, just with your username, you are able to log in with your private key. You are able to log in directly, so no more passwords is the idea behind that. You will have the slide later, and the flow is explaining there by comparing the hash of the key. So actually, you need an ecosystem of application because not everybody wants to store to write in the blockchain. So you will have a wallet that will make this for users, like Bitcoin wallets. And you will have authorization server replicated. So the nodes of the network will be just the authorization servers of the ecosystem. So it's the same thing, but you just have a layer of third parties that makes it completely possible on the performance, but also open. So yeah, so it will be just classic OAuth managing the authorization and everything. I will just go, so users will be able to retrieve the data, because the main idea with like Fitbit is to retrieve the data and be able to export them anywhere, because you own yourself a part of the data, so you just have to, we try to comply it with automation tools that are able to retrieve the data and store it in the blockchain. So the transactions are the same as Namecoin, just a new transaction, which is just the permissions that write everything. And just on the thing, because I'm late, so the alias economy, the main idea is to pre-mine, so kind of 5% of 10% of all the rewards will be dedicated to the applications that will implement this protocol and even to the users. So each time you will log in with a different, with this login, you will have a reward as a user, which will be really small, but with the numbers of data you share, it can be high. So the main question is it a new business model for internet? We will see. If the alias coin worth $1,000, so which is high and 3 times for Bitcoin, but it makes $80 per year per user. So it becomes to be a lot of money for monetizing a service, right? I don't want to be naive. I have 1 more minute. I don't want to be naive. Many challenges to face. User experience with the private key management. Even Bitcoin has issue to work with that. And you need mass adoption. So explain my mother, Bitcoin is harder than just a password. Username parking. Because you have one username which is stored in the blockchain, you could have the exact problem with a username. I can buy your username and sell it to you later, like the domain names. Developer experience, we solve it with OAuth.io with OAuth, but so we'll need to work on that. The performance, the Bitcoin blockchain takes a few minutes to write. So a user may want to share this data less than these 2-3 minutes. And politics, because our banks will be able to store some data or permission in the blockchain, which is decentralized. So it will be 1 point. Yeah, standard proliferates. I just want to say that it's exactly like energy. We had OpenID, OAuth, and everything. So I think it will be the same thing as energy. Will not change. If this works, will not change everything. We just think we will be a layer on top with a different kind of identity and different kind of users that will accept this. But just an example. But yeah, just this graph shows that an energy never decreased. The more energy source we find, the more we use them, and we just doesn't able to decrease others. I think it's the same for technology and identity layers. We just have new identity layers and everything. Thank you.
All right, Mehdi, thanks for a great talk. Stay up here. Yeah, I'm gonna ask David and Jakob to come back up. Really, really good talks, starting off with David's about OpenID Connect and OAuth, and then what I heard there was 2 great applications of using those protocols, either in microservices or in decentralized, as a decentralized identity provider. But